Hi, welcome to the Munch Bunch podcast. This is Kimi Nishimoto with my awesome co-host, Miss Megan Vanoy.
Hello.
And today we have our special friend, Miss Gigi, Dr. Gigi. Her name is Dr. Gigi Tadros, and she is located in New Jersey. You might know her as the fabulous Instagram, my favorite profile ever on Instagram, Milk Matters PT. If you don't follow her, you best follow her.
Oh yeah, I sent it to all of my friends with babies.
Oh yeah, especially if you're having a kid that's struggling, or your baby struggling, or having reflux or tongue tie stuff. Like Gigi, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna talk to her a bunch today. We kind of want to talk about tongue-tied babies, babies with a lot of tension, tummy time, maybe some oral motor tools, and if we get to it, some primitive reflexes. So, Gigi, tell us about yourself.
So, guys, thank you so much for having me on. It is truly an honor. We have dealt with each other in the past, and I love you guys, and it's just
feelings mutual.
Yeah, to be on here and to chit chat about all these things that I have grown to be so passionate about, especially when I find my nerdy friends that will engage with me. So thank you. We're here for it.
Yes.
So yes, I'm a pediatric physical therapist and an oral motor specialist. I have been a PT for over 21 years, pediatrics for the majority of those years, and I found my passion for tongue-tied children because I get to actually help them so early. So I've been a pediatric PT. I used to see children that would come to me at 6, 7, 8 months with torticollis, with developmental delays, and all these things. And once I started learning more and more about tongue ties, I realized that we could actually address this stuff way earlier, and these kids will never need therapy later down the line. So, as you guys know, to get treated early makes all the difference in children. The earlier they are, the faster they learn, and the quicker we can reverse things before too many compensations and tension and tightness all kicks in. And so treating these babies early, like I said, my motto is always, let's keep kids out of therapy. I don't want to be treating kids with developmental delays. I want to be getting to it early and addressing it and showing parents what they could do to nurture development going forward. So I do work a lot with babies with lip and tongue ties, pre-procedure, post-procedure, but really my goal is to empower parents on what they could do on their own to continue to nurture that development, the oral motor development, gross motor, fine motor, all that stuff in, a safe, easy, fun way. And that's what my Instagram is all about. Funny fact, my business is actually called In Home Pediatric PT. Milk Matters was just an Instagram account I created to start sharing information. And boy, did that blow up more than anything else. So it just was a testament to the need of having information out there.
Absolutely.
I learned so much about myofunctional therapy and what you guys do and how it's different, and just all how a multidisciplinary team can really impact these children in such a positive way.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. So with us, really Kitty and I work with, kind of kids and adults 5 and up. We will kind of hang out with some 3 and 4-year-olds sometimes, but it's more to give them resources. Fun exercises, fun things to do, and give them resources like you or an occupational therapist or even a speech language pathologist. But really being able to work as a team and everybody working collaboratively together is so much of what we stand for and so much of what we see people actually have success with. Yeah. We love working with you, and I'm always stalking your Instagram. I'm always tagging you and stuff that my baby has, when Izzy has your newest toy. I'm like, look, she's using it.
I love that. I love seeing that because it just like I said, I created it for parents to be able to treat their kids in a way, and just help them to get what it is that we would be working on in therapy anyway.
Yeah, because that's the tools, and also like helping people not get frustrated. You know, I think what you do is you really empower parents and, you know, to have fun with their kids. And I think that's so, so important because, you know, like I have a blast playing with Izzy all the time and being able to do those things, but then also it's also helping her like grow and develop, which is really, really cool and beneficial. So, gosh, I know we want to talk about everything. We want to talk to you actually for hours. So like it's probably good I don't live in New Jersey.
Forget the podcast, get the wine. Let's do this Joe Rogan style.
No, like we would never get any work done if we all lived in New Jersey together. So
right. Well, yes, one day we've got to have like a big meeting.
Yeah. Yes. So tell us more. Talk to us about tension, because what's so interesting, and I think one big missing piece of the puzzle that even, you know, like I ran into is, you know, we're like, okay, like let's get the tongue tie release, let's get the lip release, let's get the cheeks release. Like, you know, Izzy had the full gamut. But, you know, these parents are told, oh yeah, if we just snip it, you're good to go. But there's not really a lot of conversation around, well, what happens next, right? That's one piece of the puzzle. And then these kids still struggle, or they still have, you know, tension issues. And, you know, parents are like, well, wait a second, I did what they told me to do, but why is my baby still having these, you know, reflux, or they're still off to the side, or they're still like, you know, having the same kind of issues they had before, but maybe just a smidge less. So will you talk to us a little bit more about how that kind of plays into what you do?
Tongue tie, in a nutshell, will affect a baby's development. The mobility of the tongue really influences that deep front line of the fascia, and it actually, you know, feeds into the core. That fascial line is such a big role in like structural stability, in movement, and just the baby being able to move. So a tongue tie doesn't just restrict the tongue, it actually significantly can inhibit movement, and depending on a lot of different things, intrauterine constraint, the position of the baby, labor, whether it was fast or long, all those things can play into exactly what's going on here. So tongue-tied babies tend to be very challenged and uncomfortable in tummy time because of this fascial tension. And so a lot of parents tend to think that their baby hates tummy time, hates that position, so they stop putting them there. But, you know, part of my education is to help let everybody know that tummy time is really just a core foundation for all development, and it can dramatically affect their progress developmentally. And so tummy time is so, so, so important in helping to get rid of some of that tension, in addition to sort of some of the other body work that a lot of other people do. But tummy time really is like a whole body approach to addressing this oral motor piece here. Gravity plays such an important part in this. It helps to unwind the baby out of that like fetal position. It really helps the tongue to move against its range of motion, and just the movement in general, it allows it to figure out that it can move and it's there for feeding. So a big part of what I do is just help parents get their babies feeling more comfortable in tummy time, and that in and of itself will allow the baby to spend more time working on that tongue function. So it really is so important. And I think I just covered two of your questions in one.
I love it. A twofer.
Now, can you talk to us a little bit, Gigi, about how tummy time helps like strengthen and elongate that deep front line, and how it helps with tension? Because sometimes those, like as you said, the tongue-tied babies, they get there and then they get all stiff and start screaming. So when done properly, how does that work?
So I would say that, you know, the frenotomy is never just a quick fix, right? And so in an ideal world, you want like a physical therapist or an occupational therapist or a chiro or craniosacral therapist or an osteopath, massage, whatever it is, to work with the baby prior to prepare the baby's body and like just nervous system, that brain body connection for that upcoming change. Once the procedure is formed, there's obviously those wound healing exercises that have to be done, but then the baby really should be seen again for oral motor therapy and just that basic relieving the tension within 48 to 72 hours of the procedure. That way we work on the neural pathways and stuff. In my practice, I find that the pre and the post-op stuff is so critical to overcoming those oral motor issues, fascial restrictions, and just helping to restore that breastfeeding or whatever feeding relationship. And so just being able to stretch some of those tissues, allow you to relax and their nervous system to calm down enough to be able to do that oral motor therapy is why it's so important to have that comprehensive approach. Therapists in general are able to really just identify what specific needs that baby has and address them. So like you said, some of them are so stiff and tight, their shoulders are way up. So putting them on their belly is like it's not going to work. So you have to get them to relax first, and then they can extend and open up this whole fascial line and be able to perform tummy time in a more comfortable way. So it's just, so important to get the right people looking at your baby to identify what it is that they specifically need.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that's almost the hardest part, is finding the right people. And finding the right people in your community, and where, is there an easy way to find those people? Like, do you have any recommendations as people are trying to find, the right lactation or the right physical therapist, or, those types of things?
Yeah, so up until recently, the Health Flash Circle is trying to create like a more comprehensive database.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure where that is right now in terms of what they're doing, but what I have done on my Instagram account, I have a little highlights called Find Help. And basically I've compiled all the different databases. So the ICAP and the ITP, and then the IBCLCs, the orofacial myofunctional therapists, the speech therapist. So I'm trying to really compile all the different databases and directories out there. So it's all in my Find Help highlights. So you could go there, view them, swipe up, type in your zip code, and then try to find somebody from there.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah. So some of them have international, some have just the US. So you really just have to go in and see. I have a whole bunch of different ones. And anytime someone gives me a new one, I put it on there. So
yeah.
Chrysalis Orofacial has one for people who have been trained by her. Anyway, so that's sort of where I always send people. As a last case, I tell people to go to the Facebook tongue tie groups, and then they can always find their different mom recommendations. That can be a scary place though for moms, because people just sort of post everything and you're not really always getting an objective idea of what's going on. It's more just like personal experiences. So just take those Facebook groups with a grain of salt, but there you could always find, in your city or town, at least somebody that can help
maybe
you.
guide you. Mm-hmm.
And just, if you allow me, I have, for a shameless plug for a second, but I did create 2 courses. One of them is called Suck Training, and the other one is just for tension in general. And they're 2 courses that I created because I used to get calls from all over the world, many people out of state, saying, can you please help me? I can't find anybody like you. And while there's nothing special about me, it's more just about the knowledge that I have and that I share with families. And so I created these workshops. I tried to keep them super inexpensive to allow parents to access this in a world where they may not have access to a therapist. So those are 2 great things that I feel have really helped so many parents that don't have access.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Speaking of suck training and oral motor stuff, can you show us some of your favorite tools, as well as reasons why they would want to use that? Like, is it for tongue lateralization, sticking it out? Is it sucking? Show us all your goodies.
Yeah, see, I told you, you're my favorite nerdy friends.
And I'll give a personal review for each one, because you guys, I literally own almost every single one that Dr. Gigi recommends. So
again, I have a highlights on my Instagram page of toys and tools. I am a pediatric.
Live in your store.
Yes, I was going to say I'm a pediatric PT. We play for a living. I like therapy to be fun and engaging for children. Of course, when babies are itty bitty, it gets to be a little harder. So I meet them where they're at developmentally, and we work from there. So for little infants that are under 12 weeks, a lot of these toys mamas are probably going to be holding for their baby. As they start to open their hands a little bit more, reach and grasp for things and bring them to their mouth, they can hold them on their own. But that's one of the biggest questions I get all the time is, when can I start using them? So you can start using them right away. It's just a matter of how much help you have to give your child. So I always recommend the Oball, made from plastic, blah, blah, blah. So this Ogosport Bolli is the same basic idea, but it's made of silicone, not made in China, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's all right.
Izzy
loves
has
her
that
Oball.
ball.
Yeah. Izzy loves her
You
Oball.
can edit that out if you need to. It's fine.
She loves it. It's fine.
Right. So I'll show you with the Oball, but they're similar. But basically, for some reason, this thing stimulates tongue activity. So you put it up against their mouth, and all of a sudden you'll start seeing their tongue going all over the place. They love to stick their tongue through the holes. And so again, a baby younger than 3 months of age, you're going to hold it for them. A baby that's older can grasp it and bring it to their mouth, and you'll see their tongue just go to town. This thing is magic. We've been using it in PT for years for reaching, grasping, crossing midline, all those kinds of things. So I love the Oball, and it's great for just tongue movement in general. The one that I know, Megan, you said your babies love are these InnoBaby teethers. They're light, they're made of silicone. There are a lot of imposters out there, so make sure that you're buying from InnoBaby, the original, because they're actually one solid piece. The imposters, these things break off and kids can choke, which is scary. So this, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's very textured. So
she likes that side more than anything.
Yeah, it's super interesting for babies. So again, you're going to find them lateralizing, mobilizing their tongue all over. I love using this one for babies who aren't really opening really wide. So I put it in this way, and then I turn it, allows them to open their mouth a little bit bigger. And it's all in the form of play. So depending on how they grasp it and put it in their mouth, they'll be doing it to themselves as well. So just a lot of tongue mobility and exercise in general. If you want to beef up your play session, flip your baby over onto their tummy so that they're playing with these in that tummy time position. Ooh, supercharged workout.
So what is the little bumps on there for? Like, what does that do?
So yeah, everything that I show you always has some kind of texture. You can see here, there's like different textures on this one too. And that is just for interest and allowing the baby to really use their tongue for exploration. So, you know, as you guys know, babies put everything in their mouth, and it's because they get so much feedback to their brain. So their tongue can provide so much information up to the brain. And so we like to give them lots of different surfaces to just allow them to create that pathway. Also, you know, these I find, and this is why I always say no crying, no forcing. This is playtime, because I want these oral motor experiences to be fun and engaging and exciting for these babies. So babies suck on anything that they can find. So give them something that's going to be beneficial to them.
And which one was that one, Gigi?
So this one is called the Fluxy, I think. Made in the UK, the Fluxy, Fluxy. It's expensive. I actually really like these. These are the chewy cubes made by Ark Therapeutics, P&Q. P&Q. Here, they're backwards in the camera, but anyway. Again, this one, I love the long and skinny cylindrical shape. You put it in, they open big, they stick their tongue out to play with it, they move their tongue all around, and of course it practices that jaw opening and closing, so the biting is really important for kids. These are a lot more important in the older kids, or anything long and skinny that you can give a child who's over 6 months of age, because that's really when they need to start really working on the biting. is really beneficial for them. And then I have my last two that I want to show you guys that are really good.
Izzy loves that one. That's like her favorite toy.
I'm an adult woman and I want to play with that with my tongue.
Okay, that might be a little weird, but it's okay.
Expect nothing less.
It's so funny. It's okay. It's cool. We don't judge. So this one here is called the Atom. I love it for babies with a high palate because whoop, it goes right up there. And so what happens, the tongue is going to follow. So it stimulates the palate. It helps to desensitize that gag reflex. It also has the tongue follow and move up towards the palate. So I love this one. Again, doing it on their belly, supercharged workout, amazing. And then this has been also made by Manhattan Toy, and it's called the Skwish. And same idea, I want these nubs up and in their mouth to help with that high palate.
Yeah, Izzy goes nuts over I was going to see if I could find a picture for you guys. There she's in her upsie.
Oh, little baby.
Also in her upsie, and then also she's, literally everything.
She's got like a pink clown nose because she's precious.
Oh, there she's actively playing with it. Yeah. Oh yeah, she loves this one.
Yes, you'll see them sometimes be like,
oh yeah, she does that a little bit.
You want them to be able to control it rather than parents freaking out every time they gag.
Going hard on that thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she loves it on her tummy. That's a top 3 favorite toy for her.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
Miss Gigi, talk to us a little bit about the correlation between kids that are in containers and that aren't doing a lot of tummy time, and how that relates to retaining primitive reflexes.
There is a big correlation between baby containers in general and limiting the movement of a child with their development. So a baby naturally has to move and, turn their head, reach their arms, kick their feet, engage their core. That's how they learn to move. That's how they become curious about movement and looking, and that's what drives development. So when you put a baby in a swing, a car seat for a prolonged period of time, swaddling for more than those like initial 8 to 12 weeks, you're basically limiting the baby's ability to turn their head, to move their arms. And also there's not really a lot going on, right? So they're not really very stimulated when they're in those things. So they're just kind of staring off or whatever it is. So I'm a big proponent of keeping a child on the floor. It can be on their belly, they could be on their sides, whatever it is, changing their direction all the time, but just allowing them that freedom of movement. I always describe, like, as adults, we wake up in the morning and we're stiff, but just that movement from like washing our face, brushing our teeth, taking a shower, by the time you're done getting ready, your joints have been lubricated and you forget that you were actually ever stiff. And so the same thing happens with a baby. If you're limiting their movement for this long period of time, they never get to experience that movement. Now, primitive reflexes, so babies are born with reflexes that allow them to move in order to basically function throughout the day. So the suck reflex is intended to allow them to suck when their muscle, they don't have that muscle activity to be able to do it. There's the startle reflex, there's all these other primitive reflexes that babies are born with. And with that normal movement, so primitive reflexes lie in the brainstem. So, when the doctor hits you with the hammer and your knee goes out, the knee jerk, that also is in the brainstem. So it doesn't require any of the higher level centers of the brain in order to be elicited. So it's a measure of brain function, which is great. But as humans, we have these higher brain centers above the brainstem that are responsible for active movement. And so as a baby grows and develops, you want that part of the brain to start developing. When you limit a child's ability to move, those higher centers of the brain are never activated enough. And so those reflexes are retained or they never disappear is what that means. And those active muscle patterns don't really form as well. So you'll see this a lot now. We're realizing that like kids who have difficulties, you know, in class, like copying from the board or reading or whatever, all these things actually relate back to a lack of movement as an infant. So a big part of what we preach is just allowing a baby to be free, you know, getting them out of a swaddle, putting them on the floor and just allowing them to look, to like punch their arms and to just be free. It prevents that stiffness and it allows them to just develop in the way that they were meant to. I think that we live in a world now where everyone is multitasking. There's so much pressure on moms to go back to work or to like do laundry or cook or clean the dishes or whatever it is. And so we end up wanting to just kind of put the baby in one little spot so we could do what we need to do. And it's really, it's a disservice to all of us. It's a disservice to mamas because we're just taking on too much, when really your job when you're on maternity leave is to care for your child, not all that other stuff. And then more importantly, it's a disservice to your child who never gets that active movement. So I would even say before all these containers even came into existence, motor milestones would happen faster. We would say babies roll at 3 months, sit at 6 months, and now we're delaying that a little bit because babies are just not getting as much movement.
Interesting. Yeah, because Izzy's been hitting all of those, but she lives on the floor. Even like, even if she's at grandma's house, like she lives on the floor. So my mom's like, that's where I always put you guys. And I'm like, you knew all about it before I did, Mom.
And it's so true. Like naturally parents are always like, what is this? Like, where did you get this? You know, they may have had a swing and that's what they would use sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% opposed to them. I just want you to use them in moderation. You know, obviously if you have to take a shower, put your baby somewhere safe that they're not going to, you know, so it's okay to use for 10-15 minutes a day, but not to sleep in for sure. And certainly not for the majority of the day.
Well, one thing that Megan and I learned when we did Munchie University, because Megan and I are Myo Munchie ambassadors, was the Mary Burke, who's the CEO, was teaching us that babies that live in containers, they're more likely to get like the flat head, the plagiocephaly, as well as like the reflexes aren't integrating because it's hard to move around. So that was really interesting to me because I'd never heard of that before. She actually suggests adults get on the ground too and lay on their back on the ground to help with the tension in the spine and help lubricate those joints.
Yeah, that's basically why I have a job. We're physical therapists in general, right? It's just this lack of movement that is happening in our society that like is causing so much tension. And absolutely, so a baby's head in the first year of life is actually soft. The bone doesn't really become bone until about that 1 year mark. So if a baby is in that same position all the time, then they will develop those flat spots. But in other news, just as quickly as it can misshapen, it can also reshapen, because the reason it's soft is because a baby's brain grows so much in that first year, so it allows for expansion. So a baby's head will return to its natural shape just by virtue of growth, if you're getting them off or out of those containers, off of that pressure. So that's good news. Everything in an infant is so reversible. And that's why I love this population, because I can get in there and educate parents early, show them what to do, what not to do. And then, you know, at 10 months, they call me and they're like, my baby is walking. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have an early walker. She's like already ready to crawl. She's getting up on her hands and knees and rocking, and oh yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like, as a PT, I find that fascinating, that like the movement drives the curiosity, which drives the cognitive development. So they see things, they're going to work hard to get it, and they're going to try, they're going to move their muscles, they're going to learn, they're going to mess up, and they're going to try again. And so to me, that's what I find so fascinating, is watching the brain develop, and that drives the muscles to get stronger.
Yeah, that's so cool. gosh, I know we need to kind of wrap it up here shortly. I know all of us have to, hop onto our patients and, shove lunch down our throats real quick. But if you had any just kind of top advice for parents on like first steps or, what to do, what would you say? Like, because it's so overwhelming being a new parent. Like what kind of what nugget can you leave us with for parents out there?
So I'm going to tell you guys a story, but my nugget is to hone in and learn to hear and trust your gut. I call it the superpower of motherhood. And I think myself, even, I doubted it for a really long time, but we know we're born with this gift that we know what's good for our babies. And like something doesn't sit right, doesn't resonate right, trust that gut. Quick story. My husband is a pharmacist, and my daughter at 3 months, I went to pick her up from the crib, and I picked her up and she felt warm and warmer than she normally would feel. And so I'd never had a sick baby before. So I said to him, I think that Ella has a fever. And so he went, grabbed the thermometer, measured her temperature, and it came out normal. And of course, no disrespect to dads, but he's like, you always overreact. You're such a drama queen. She's fine. Well, let me tell you, within 20 minutes, she spiked a 101 fever. She went to the hospital. She had RSV. She needed nebulizer treatments and all this other stuff.
Poor baby.
And so, yeah, parents can tell before dads and before thermometers that there's something wrong with their child. We're just given this gift of intuition. And it's a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And so just to trust it. And there are so many people out there available to help you. So just, you will get better at figuring out what's noise and what's sound information, but just believing in your own gut and relying on the others or the professionals to sort of lead you. If your baby is struggling with oral restrictions and you're navigating that, I do have a free PDF that they can get, and it sort of helps them just identify what the symptoms are, who they may need, and then who to reach out for help and how to find someone in their area. So I can send that to you guys to link it below.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
You're a goddess.
And I'm always here too. My DMs are open. They can always send me a message at Milk Matters. I check them myself for now. And I'm happy.
Yeah, and I can attest to that. She does.
I do.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Gigi, for joining us. It's been so great. So Milk Matters PT, but also In Home Pediatrics, right? PT.
Yeah, In Home Pediatric PT. Every once in a while I'll say, hey, are you following me over at In Home? Come hang out over here. But yeah, my goal is always that once you're done with your tongue tie issues, come over to In Home and I'll show you how to play with your baby in like a fun way.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, as per usual, you guys can always find us at the Munch Bunch podcast on Instagram. You can find myself and Kimmy on there as well, Mouth Muscle Memory and NWMFT. You can find us, contact us. We can get you in touch with Dr. Gigi if we need to and help you with those resources as well. So, Kimmy, any final words you want to end us off with here?
I would just say everybody needs to follow Milk Matters, even if you don't have a baby. If you like potentially are pregnant or want to be pregnant, or you are wanting to help guide moms, because sometimes like we're working with tongue-tied kids, but that kid has a little sibling. So it's good to know like the baby symptoms, even though Megan and I, like as myofunctional therapists, we don't treat babies. It's good to know those symptoms so we can be good advice givers. So follow Milk Matters. She's lovely.
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys. Thanks, Gigi.